Good morning, everyone. Hello. I hope we are having great mood in GTC as always. Moreover, there is nice snow outside and we have honored great guest in Gymri today. I am pleased to introduce you the Chief Executive Officer of FAST, which is opened as Foundation for Armenian Science and Technology. So I'm sure we are going, Dr. Armen Orujyan, and I'm sure we are going to have great discussion about how being global startup is related to global mindset and global thinking. Thank you, Dr. Orujyan, to be here today, and we are honored to host you in GTC. And I'm sure this will be great motivation to our students who have also the goals to have their own startups. Please.
Thanks. It's really a great honor to be here. Thanks for the invite. I'm looking forward to interacting with you, but also taking your questions and see how we can make your life easier. So I don't want to take too much time. We can continue later.
Thank you. We can sit here, and the first thing we will be very glad to hear, which is important, why FAST was founded in Armenia in 2016. What are the main goals, what it is changing, or it will change in our country?
It's a good question. Foundation for Armenian Science and Technology. The thought or the thinking behind it is by a very known gentleman to many Armenians, Ruben Vartanian, and several of his colleagues that came up with an objective of establishing science and technology initiative in Armenia. And then they were kind enough to reach out to me in Los Angeles, and I hadn't been in Armenia about a decade before this year, and I think I have some alums here, apparently, back when we used to have programs in Armenia in 05, 07. The big thing is, look, for science and technology to operate, for it to have an impact, and for anything to operate properly and have an impact, it requires an actual ecosystem. It requires instruments within the ecosystem that will enable all the players within the ecosystem for them to be successful. The true nature of FAST is creating that type of an ecosystem that will drive scientific advancement and technological innovation for Armenian nation. Meaning it's not only for Armenia proper, but it's all for all Armenians around the world. As I say that, this is my first visit to Gymri ever. Thank you. I can't say it's a great city or not because I just stopped and I just came into this place. I've heard a lot about wonderful people from Gymri, so it's great to actually finally get to meet some of you, those of you who are natives. But what was interesting is the following, and I'm digressing a little bit, but this is very important. I mentioned to my associates who were riding in the car with me, I said, look, we are in a country going from the capital of the country to the second largest city, and we're the only vehicle on the road. That's telling. I don't know what it's telling, but it's telling. I'll come back to that during this discussion that I will be having with you guys. But it was an interesting thing just to notice on the way here.
Thank you. Within these months, when FAST is in Armenia, exactly what developments are done? What we have now that we didn't have before the foundation was here?
Besides me?
Of course, humans are the most important. Great value.
Yes. On a serious note, another very important element when you're building something, you gotta run but you got to be deliberate. If you want to build a very tall building, if you want to build large building, the first thing that you do is actually not building up, but digging down. This is very interesting. Everyone expects for that to happen for buildings, but somehow they forget that organizations are also require foundations, so they're also establishments. Before you go up, you gotta still really hunker down, start digging. We've been digging. We've been showing few colors, but for now, for us, it's establishing a very strong foundation. It's like going to a doctor, and without the doctor checking you properly, give you diagnosis, more so, prescribes you how to get you better. It's, if you go ever to a doctor, you walk in, they give you a prescription, get out. Get out. That's not the proper way to do it. Yet, we've still done few things. One thing we've unveiled, two things we've unveiled last month or in October. One was a fellowship. Do we have any PhD students here? Any students? No PhD students. One person. One thing we've unveiled is a fellowship for PhD students for applied physical and biological sciences for top 10% of all Armenian PhD students. And most importantly, we have women in the audience. Women in the audience. I see a lot more women than hands from women.
How Gymri is different.
Yeah,
Many women.
So we are also offering top 10 women full fellowships for PhD in those areas. And another very important thing we're creating is a science and technology angels network. Do we have entrepreneurs in the house? No entrepreneurs? No entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs, few? Any startups? Only few startups? Okay, somewhat of a startup. So we have an angels network that we've established, first time in Armenia, that's going to be on science and technology, looking at early stage startups. So this is very important. In February, we will actually do a press conference with the actual co-founding angels. So that's going to be a very important contribution to the ecosystem.
Thank you. And startups. This is a very general subject in Armenia. We hear it every hour, every day, and still there are some obstacles that prevent our startups to become global. Maybe this is slow, maybe it takes time, but coming to the topic that we are honored to hear today from you, how startups will become global, especially when sitting students here, we are trying to motivate them to create their own startup, not to wait for companies just to hire them. So how it happens?
Can you tell me a little bit about who the audience is?
The audience is mainly our GITC students. They are and GTC students. Right now, they are in very important project supported by European Union and government of Armenia that is implemented by Microsoft Innovation Center and GITC. And they, apart from that have been participating in 6-month training, now they are in incubation lab, having their mentors. 90% of them.
Can we hear from some of them?
Of course.
I want to hear your stories first before we can talk about what we should do.
Someone from incubation lab.
If you don't, I'm going to come with the mic and start asking you. Oh, it's okay, I can understand Armenian.
Բնականաբար ցանկացած ծրագրավորող, ով ուզում է արդյունքի հասնել,
I can understand you, it's fine.
Yes. Նա պետք է անցնի որոշակի պրակտիկային փորձ, հա, եւ Microsoft Innovation Center-ը GITC-ի հետ համագործակցելով ովքեր ստացել են Եվրոմիությունից ֆինանսավորում, մեզ լայն հնարավորություն տվեցին, որպեսզի մենք կարողանայինք պրակտիկալ առաջընթաց ունենալ ծրագրավորման մեջ եւ մեզ ապահովել են եւ նորագույն տեխնոլոգիաներով եւ անսահմանափակ գրաֆիկով, որպեսզի մենք կարողանանք ցանկացած ժամանակ մեզ հարմար ժամանակ կարողանանք օգտվել այդ տեխնիկայից եւ իհարկե շատ շնորհակալություն ձեզ, որ տվել եք մեզ այդպիսի հնարավորություններ։ Մեր նպատակն է, որպեսզի մենք հասնենք այսօրվա ծրագրավորման գիտելիքների բարձր մակարդակին, որ բավարարենք այսօրվա շուկան, հա, եւ կարողանանք Գյումրիում հասնել մի ծրագրավորման մակարդակի, որ մասնակցենք համաշխարհային շուկային, հա։
Thank you. Maybe we can hear from, yeah, a couple more.
Ես նորից JIDC շրջանավարտ եմ եւ ավարտելով այստեղ ես գտել եմ աշխատանք Երևանում, աշխատել եմ երկար տարիներ Երևանում, հիմա իմ կազմակերպությունը ստեղծելու նպատակով վերադարձել եմ Գյումրի եւ իմ կարիերան շարունակում եմ այստեղ։ Եվ պատմությունը բաներ, հա, այսինքն տվել էր JIDC-ին այն գիտելիքները, որով ես կարողացա անմիջապես աշխատել եւ հետո աշխատանքային փորձը տվեց այդ հնարավորությունը, որ հիմա ապրեմ եւ աշխատեմ իմ քաղաքում։ Ես հարց կարող եմ տալ։ Ես քանի որ այդ ճանապարհին եմ, թե սեփական ընկերության, թե սեփական ստարտափի հիմնման վրա, ուզում եի նշեի այն ոլորտները, որով ֆաստը հետաքրքրված է, այսինքն ինչ ոլորտների վրա է թիրախավորված ֆաստը։
Yeah, good question. I'll come back to that question if you don't mind, but I'll remember it. You know, I'm very curious to know. Maybe we can ask some of what are some of your problems? What is it that you need? Look. I'm going to get up. I'm going to change how we're going to do this. So I can speak, I can lecture, but I don't care to lecture. I care to know what are some of the challenges that you have? What are some of the difficulties? I want you to teach me a little bit, and then I can have a dialogue with you, if that makes sense. Is that clear? Is that good for you to speak about some of the challenges that you have?
Hi, my name is Bella. I'm the president of 6LIT. We're a branch of an American company here, and we just started like 2 months ago. I think our main problem is the lack of business ethics.
Business ethics?
Yes, because well, I studied in America, and then when I came back here, I kind of got used to doing everything the American way. And I think people lack that understanding or the experience. So our company is here to bring that, but we need cooperation. Also, lack of experience, and I mean, people do have that knowledge. They don't know like very well how to put that to use.
Expertise is lacking. Okay, so we have expertise. Sorry, I'm going to be running with you. Who else has issues that you would want to discuss? The lady in the back. It's good. I bet some of you are going to share the same frustration. So it's, you know, we'll take several more and then we'll continue discussion.
Hi, I'm Nune. I'm actually here from Impact Hub Yerevan. So we're trying to understand whether it is feasible to open one in Gymri. So I think that mostly not.
If it's feasible, what? Sorry.
To start one Impact Hub in Gymri as well. So I think one of the main challenges here is the sustainability of the projects, because people usually get funding to start their startups, but I mean, how far can they go? Usually they either lack funding or they lack more motivation or push from their mentors. So I think a lot of times it starts off a very good start, but then because of the lack of funding or any other issue, they just can't stay sustainable.
Okay, thank you. Let me tell you something that you may either appreciate or maybe not, but it's all the problems that you've mentioned are true no matter where you go. They're not Armenia problems. They're also Armenian problems. For startups, let's say, starting and then running out of money or talent, Silicon Valley. You don't even need to travel outside of Silicon Valley. It happens in greater numbers in a place like Los Angeles. It's expected to happen. You know, there's finite amounts of money available or finite number of resources available. Business ethic is naturally slightly different. There's always a clash of cultures no matter where you go, even within the United States. Startups that are established in California, they don't operate the same way in Omaha. It's just those things don't work that way. But the fact that lack of skill set, for instance, that's an important one. Do you guys, I have a different type of a question. Do you guys feel that you have expertise when you finish school? When I say school, I mean your universities, whatnot. When you finish, when you complete university, when you're walking out, do you feel that you have skills? Can you raise hands when you feel that you're really, sorry?
Actually, in Armenia, it depends on the university.
Okay, but raise your hands if you feel that you're not getting skills. I'm sorry? I want you to actually raise hands if you feel that you do not have the skills. Everyone else is an expert. Okay, good. Who said that you don't have skills in this place? Turn to your colleagues because it seems like we have a lot of experts in the place. There is a big gap between where education is, when academia is, and where the professional and business sector is. There needs to be a bridge where the academic environment also supports knowledge of transformation. I've always imagined, and this is true everywhere, this is again not an Armenian, it's also an Armenian problem, but it's not truly an Armenian, it's an academia problem. You climb up in academia. You go first grade, you go second grade, you finish high school, you go to college, you go to university, then you become graduate university, you get a PhD, and then you got to get into professional space, and then you drop, and then you got to start climbing. First year experience, second year experience, third year experience. And that's absurd. It shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't be spending 20 years in academia and then have a drop. And the reason I say you have a drop is the following. For instance, you may get the top expertise, academic expertise, you get a PhD, doctorate in that, and you're here. So when you're on the stage, they put the gown, you feel you've got a PhD, and then you take your application into a business and you say, here's my application, take me in. And then someone who has half of your education, but has been in business for 5 years, they take your application, they say, what's your experience? And then you say, well, I've taken this course, I've taken that course, and then the guy who comes in with that experience says, what's your experience? Say, look, these are my projects, this is what I've done. They forget to ask what your academic background is. They don't even care anymore. So there is that gap, that drop that needs to be eliminated. And we're actually looking very closely. That's going to be one of the things that we want to resolve. What is the academia of this generation? I don't want to say what's the academia of the 21st century, because the 21st century guys, in 80 years or 83 years, there is so much that's going to change. There's so much going to change in the next 5 years. So we want to talk about this generation. How can we eliminate this gap? And we're looking into university systems in Armenia. You know, one good thing about Armenia, it's small. And you say small is not good. Sometimes small is very good, because you can actually make significant changes in a very short period of time. Think of making a change, significant change, in academia in the United States. almost impossible. And quite frankly, albeit I came out from American academic system, it's in a decline because it's still from 1940s, 50s, 60s when it was really taking off in the form that it is.
Can I address one big challenge that I face as a manager of GTC and being in touch with students? So we speak about developing this startup culture in Gyumri. Like in Yerevan, it's more or less there. Like students get together, they have cool idea. Don't matter it comes from market or they are just enthusiastic to start. But in Gyumri, or maybe out of Yerevan, not in Gyumri, the students have fear to create their own startup, to become entrepreneur, and they are just waiting for a company, for companies in GTC to hire them, for GTC EIF to bring more companies. So what is the mindset and how it can be influenced without being as brainwashed? Thank you.
Startups are interesting. I've done too many startups, so that's from there. So they're fun. They're really fun. It's like creating a baby. They are actually creating babies, right? They don't exist, and then a couple of people get together, and then something exists. We won't go through a process of procreation, but it's something of that nature. So it's a very important process. Now, when you're in how big is Gymri? Do you know what the population of Gymri is?
It's small, maybe maximum 100,000.
Maximum 100,000. Well, it's not that small. It's small, but it's not that small. But it's still a small environment. Even Armenia as a country is a small country. But when you're coming from a small place, having a product that's looking inwards is not going to work. Having a product or a mindset that is looking outward, and when I say outward, I don't even mean Yerevan. I don't even mean Armenia. Today, really, borders, boundaries, when I was just coming here, they were talking to me about Armenian science. And I'm like, what's an Armenian science? What science today is Armenian, American, Indian? It's like, what's an Indian science? There is science. In 16th, 17th century, it was an American science, Armenian science, because you would get on a board, some kind of a boat, you go someplace, you do some kind of a investigation, you get that knowledge, you bring it, and it stays in your country. Today, before you take anything, everyone knows before you know, and something that you were doing. So there is really no Armenian science or whatnot. So there is really no startup. There is Gymri startup, Yerevan startup. It makes no sense. Your product has to be outward. You need to know what is the general population uncomfortable about. Some of it could be localized. And I want to give you a very interesting story that happened to be in Africa. Because if that story didn't happen, the next day I would not have funded that particular business. So the story is the following. We're in the country of Rwanda that shared similar kind of a history in terms of genocide happening to the country. So we've been there for several weeks now. My team, Americans in Africa, we want to go to somewhere authentic. You know what authentic means? Authentic means something native, something that belongs, that's unique to them. So we wanted to go to a place that is very Rwandan, not in Kigali, not in the city center. So they took us about 110 kilometers outside a nice lake. Daytime, we got there around 1 o'clock. Beautiful lake, seriously beautiful. So we're on this side of the lake, and there are farmers on the other side. They're cows and whatnot. So they're speaking, I don't know what they're speaking, but they're speaking native language 2 kilometers away, and then we can hear them. There's nothing around. It's really pristine. So there's a restaurant on top of the hill. There's no one. So someone comes in with a piece of paper, comes to us, and we say, so if he comes with a piece of paper, we're thinking maybe from the restaurant. So we ask, can we have goat meat? Because that's what they eat in this country. They say, sure. Can we have fish? Can we have vegetables? Drinks? Thank you. Goes. 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock? Nothing. 3 o'clock? Nothing. We're hungry, we're starving, we're now delirious. 4 o'clock, we're really delirious. I'm thinking, was this a random person? Came, we gave him, can you bring this? Sure, I can bring this. Random, and just left. Well, about 4:30, everything that we ordered came. Everything we ordered came. But here's the question, why did it take you 3.5 hours to go make lunch? And we didn't figure this out until the night came by. They had to go kill the goat, cook it, marinate it, cook it and bring it. They had to go catch the fish, marinate it, cook it and bring it. They had to go and find those vegetables in the surrounding villages to bring it to you. But they did. And then night comes in, but it's delicious. Speaking of organic food, it's delicious. So night comes up, right? Night comes down. Guess what? Everything is dark. Pitch black. Everything is dark. There is no electricity anywhere in the surrounding. So you say, so who cares? You know, what's the meaning of this story? They have no refrigeration. They have absolutely zero refrigeration in that area. There is no way for them to have goat meat unless they go kill the goat. There is no way for them to have fish unless they go catch the fish because it's going to become rotten. But there is no way. Now, it's the next day. We have startups in Africa pitching us. And one of the startups is a young lady like yourself. She gets on the stage. She's from Kenya. She's not from Rwanda. She's from Kenya. She gets on the stage. She says, I have the following business. People from my village every day text me the type of fish they want, and I go and I catch that fish and I bring it to them. They say, I need this type of fish 1, that type of fish 2, and I only, when I catch the fish that is ordered, I keep that, and rest I put back into the water, and then I go. And now I want some money for me to expand to the surrounding villages because they need the same thing. Now, if I did not have the experience the day before, as an American that lives in fashionable city like Los Angeles, I would have said, what kind of a business is that? Who text messages you, I need that type of a fish? But if you don't have any electricity around you for miles, there is no other way for you to do this but that. The reason of the story is the following. Some business can be local and has to be local. You can't export that business. That business will not work in Gymri, for instance. It can only work in that specific space, very successfully. That girl is still doing that, actually, and is expanded to many villages, because until that infrastructure comes in, that business is going to work. In most cases, though, the same place, another business pitched for us. And this was slightly ridiculous, because the business pitch was the following. What if we take books and we copy them, and then we put them online and we sell them? I'm like, Amazon? The question is, what's an Amazon? So those businesses we don't fund because we say, just Google the damn thing. That's not a business. What do you mean printing or copying books? Where were you all this time? So some people naturally try to do global businesses, but they don't know that those businesses already exist. So you can go local if it's really specific. You got to be very, very careful, though, that it's an actual business. There is an actual need. But there was a need. You know, another very interesting one that was a local business that blew our mind off, and they had 100 million people using it. Daily text messages of prayers. Some people wanted to be reminded for X amount of money for every day, some kind of a prayer for them to come in the middle of the work, so it text messages and then they're happy. But outside of that, you want to look out, guys. You want to look outside of the window. You want to look outside of Yerevan. You want to look, most importantly, and I beg you, look outside of this region. Don't try to compete if you go to Olympics for number 78, 79 in Olympics. You want to be number 1, you want to be in top 3, you want to be in top 10. Being better than Georgians does not mean that you're better if they are somewhere in those rankings. It's very important for you to really be, all right, I want to be competitive. I want to be the best. In order to do that, you got to look really outside of those banks. Today you have internet. Everyone has internet, right, guys? I mean, you don't have, do we have anyone who doesn't have access to internet here? Seriously, is there anyone who doesn't have internet? No, that's good. That's good, because many of the problems you can actually go on internet, just Google, within 5 minutes you're going to find the solution, whether that exists or doesn't exist. But look at you know, another very interesting thing, look at what people are complaining about. You know, generally, how does innovation work, right? So let's say, you know, I'll sit here, I can sit like this for a while, but at some point I want to lean back. And if I want to lean back, I'm not going to have a chair like you that you can sit there for hours because you can lean back. Now, I bet you some time ago, there was a chair that didn't have a back. And then someone said, you know what, I'm tired of this. And they created a chair with a back of that nature. You know, it's like, it's the discomfort that actually brings innovation. If you're comfortable, you're not innovating. You're just not going to do. You are, I want to say, and you're going to hate me for this probably, you are much better in Gymri to be creative, innovative, than being in the middle of Los Angeles. Because most of us are idiots. We're so comfortable with everything. We'll be spending time at the beach. There is really nothing to innovate there. But we try to be competitive. It's the competitive nature. But here you have so many struggles that should really empower you for you to come up with new solutions. You're far better off when it comes to innovation, creativity here than anywhere else.
Thank you. I want to translate that very part into Armenian, in case it's not understandable. Շատ կարևոր կետ, որ պետք է սկսել հենց Գյումրիից, որովհետև Գյումրիին նորարարություն տալը եւ նորարար ծրագրեր իրականացնելը ավելի հեշտ է եւ իհարկե մտածելով ավելի լայն։ Ես հուսամ սա ինչ որ բան կփոխի ձեր մտքում, երբ որ ուզում ցանկանաք ստեղծել product. Any other questions?
Should I ask you a question? I want to ask you a question. And forgive me for this question. Okay. Why are you here? Seriously.
Actually, I have nothing to do with startups. I'm just here to see you once again. So after so many years. So welcome to Gymri.
Good pleasure, good pleasure. Gohad here. Come on, get up, get up, get up. Come. She was one of our best alums when we had programs here some 10 years ago in Armenia. I think you won one of our scholarships, right? Yeah. Did you go to Geneva with us? Oh. So not only she was good, she was great, because we only took one student or two students from Armenia to a bigger program that we did in Switzerland back in 2007, I think, sometime then. And she was one of your best representative of that era, some decade ago. Well, thanks for being here. I haven't seen you in 10 years. Great. All right, outside of that type of a question. Yes. You have it, okay.
Nice to meet you, first of all. And I'm Liana from Render Forest. Maybe you know.
From where?
Render Forest. Okay. So I'm here, first of all, to meet you, to see how this event can be helpful for our company, for me especially, to make my job easier, better, and maybe something else that can be helpful for me.
What's your job?
I'm project manager.
What's your company?
Render Forest online video editing software.
What are you doing?
So I'm helping the company, the guys who are working at our company, to organize the project and to make their job faster for all those who are not so good in English. And
are you renting trees? Is that what you're doing?
oh no.
So tell me what your company is.
So Render Forest is an online video editing software. So we have many templates. People can just enter our website and choose their template and create their video within a few minutes. Yeah.
And so they build videos on your website. And how are you different from any other existing tool?
First of all, we have many tools that are not that you cannot find in other websites. We are very fast and easy to use, and we are working hard to implement more features to our website.
So essentially a content development environment.
Kind of.
Kind of?
Yeah.
Video as a content?
Content development, yes.
Yeah. So dynamic content development.
Yes.
That's actually very good. That's, interesting thing about content development. So by 2019, we're talking about a year and a half from now, about 80% of all global internet traffic is going to be video, which is an 85% in the United States actually. That's going to be video content, which means if you're starting a business and if you're planning that you're going to advertise your business or market your business through static content, that ship has sailed. If you want to have any kind of a existence, you need to have dynamic content. You actually, the business that you're in is very important. So just get up for a second. Just stand up. You actually want to get her card because, because what she's doing is going to be very useful for you when you're establishing a business. It's the only way to really reach out to customers today, to have some kind of a short video, but quality video for you to be able to communicate your message. So it's I think what you need to start doing, you need to start speaking about your business properly in terms of what type of a problem you're solving and why you're solving that. Right? The statistics that I'm giving you, let's say it's one thing to do, but the most importantly is attention span is really changing, and everything how we absorb information is changing, and you're right on the cusp of it. So I think you would want to communicate that message and maybe display some of the videos that other people are doing dynamically that is different. Before, they were doing the static and now they're doing the dynamic content. But it's an important business you're in.
For now we have about 2 million users, but...
You have how many users?
2 million.
That's it? 2 million. That's a big number. 2 million users, yeah. Here? Oh, see guys? See? Is that what it is? Gyumri is known to be shy? All right, today we're not going to be shy.
Yeah, and for our company, the main challenge here in Armenia is to find the professional developers, for example, or animators. Yeah.
You mean software developers?
In Armenia, we have...
yeah, but the question is to find expert software developers.
Yes.
Yes?
Software developers who can who can join our company and develop with us.
Okay. Do we have any students who are in software development here in the room? Software development? Anyone? Okay. What's your background? Let me understand that then. I'm sorry? What's your academic background? What did you study?
Ես պրակտիկա ունեմ, ես Microsoft-ի ծրագրավորում եմ, նոր սկսում ենք։
Okay, so you're doing it right now. Okay.
All day are on the way to become software.
What about the gentleman next to you?
Ես էլ պրակտիկա ունեմ, նոր ենք սկսել։
Ծրագրավորում. Okay. You?
Նույնպես ես եմ Microsoft-ի ուսանող, ստաժորություն եմ անում։
What about before that?
Մինչև ես ինքնուրույն եմ զբաղվել եւ հիմա հնարավորություն է տրվել կատարելագործվելու։
Okay. So I suppose in the room, what about on this side? Do we have any computer sciences? Yes, no? Do we have any linguists in the room? Oh, God. The reason I ask, I went to a place.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, let me. Yeah. So I went to a place in Yerevan a couple of days ago. I go into a room, there's 19 people working. They're doing database development, and 9 of them were linguists out of the 19, which was, we have an issue. Please, go ahead.
You said that we should start here in Gymri, and I have a question. For example, I want to study machine learning. If you know that, it's a part of computer science. It's growing up as an artificial intelligence. And in Armenia, there's only 2 or 3 companies that do machine learning. And most of them are very small, 5 or 6 workers, and they do not need much of them. And I started as Stanford University's courses online, and as all students, I have questions. And I need someone to ask that questions. Of course, online courses are great. I can watch them, but to ask that questions, I have no one to ask them.
What's your name?
Vahe.
Vahe. It's a painful question you're asking. It's an important one. This is why we exist, actually. So it's a very good one. Foundation for Armenian Science and Technology. We're looking, one of the major things that we're doing is research. And the research component is for us to understand what could be science verticals that we can actually invest in heavily in Armenia. One of the areas that we are really focused on is data sciences. Data sciences is broad: machine learning, AI, ML, modeling, simulation of data, data collection, big data. All of this falls under data sciences. This is a big, big interest for us. And we're going to throw a lot of tools at this, a lot of instruments at this, a lot of resources at this. You don't have it now. I'm not going to say, you know what, stay in Gymri and you're going to do well with machine learning. You're not going to do well in machine learning in Gymri. You're not going to do with machine learning well in Yerevan. You're not going to do with machine learning in Russia. You're not going to do with machine learning in most places on the planet. There are only few places on the planet that you're going to actually do well when it comes to machine learning. We had an issue even here when we had the machine learning workshop that we had in October with National Science Foundation. Did you hear about that, Vahe? Anyone heard NSF Fast workshop that we did in Yerevan in October? You have, okay. So we have only one person in the room that knew. But it was a major, actually. We had over 65 machine learning scientists that we brought from around the world. It was a big, we had about 300 people in the room for 4 days in a row. It was very interesting in terms of what we were trying to do. But it's an area that we actually are very gung-ho, and we want to establish, and we want to throw a lot of resources at it. The question is the following: this is one of those fields that you can't immediately resolve, but it's resolvable because it doesn't require too much resources, especially when it comes to tangible resources. You just need a very fast computer, and you need someone to know math. Our academic institutions lack when it comes to applied mathematics. Mathematics is good, but applied mathematics not so much. For machine learning, you actually need applied mathematics. So we're going to start from academia, but also have some connections between entities that are already strong in machine learning. We've already established 2 partnerships, one with the University of Southern California that focuses on machine learning. And you know Yerevan N? You don't know Yerevan N? You should know these guys. They're based in Yerevan, naturally, Yerevan N. But they're a small team, but they're very, very good, given that they are in Armenia, what they're doing. And maybe a chapter of that could also be brought already to Gymri. Maybe you would want to get in touch with them and see how that could be done. But it's going to take few years, not months, few years until something of that nature is really established here. But machine learning is important. So you can start your business here, but the skills that you want for machine learning, you're not going to find from Gymri. You're going to have a hard time to find it actually in this entire region. It's not as simple, you know, but it is what's going to propel Armenia forward, we believe, and we're going to really heavily invest in that space. Who has a question? Okay.
I want to ask you about your plans in Gymri. Is there any plans?
Yes, we will discuss. Today, I don't know Gymri. This is my first visit. So I already disclaimer, my first visit to Gymri. So don't know Gymri, but it really was surprising to me that on the road we were the only vehicle coming to Gymri. You know, it's really bummer. I mean, this is the second largest city, so something must be done in Armenia to make that type of a linkage. So we'll look into that actually to see how we can utilize that connection between the two cities, definitely. So, but first we need to learn a lot more about what Gymri is and what's available here in terms of resources. All right, so I want to come back to the question that who asked, where is that gentleman that asked the question? I think you asked the initial question about startups, right? Repeat that question for me again. That's not the question you asked the first time, but I'll answer that. What's FAST is looking for in terms of, okay. Now, FAST as such is not an entity that funds or gives money to startups. We create tools that fund startups. For instance, we created Angels Network. Angels Network is going to focus on startups. We're working right now on establishing pre-seed fund venture capital, which is going to focus on startups. We're creating with other entities an incubation environment, science-based specifically, machine learning, data sciences and whatnot, focused on science-based startups. So this is how we're approaching systemic ways, not per startup, but per system. So we would look to establish something, some kind of an instrument in Gymri that would enable you and most of you here through that instrument. Does that make sense? You understand it? Yes? Doesn't seem like. No? Yes? Okay. All right. Solve that. Yes, please.
Ուրեմն ես Էլվիրան եմ, համալսարանական ներկայացուցիչ եմ, ուզում եմ իմանալ, թե համալսարանների համար ինչ առաջարկներ ունեք համագործակցության, եւ ես հետևում եմ FAST-ի գործունեությանը, համագործակցության խմբում հիմնականում ավելի հաջողակ կրթական կառույցներն են։ Այն կառույցները, որոնք որ ավելի դժվարություններ ունեն հաջողեցնելու, իրենց համար ինչ առաջարկներ ունեք։ Ես ներկայացնում եմ Շիրակի պետական համալսարան։
Thank you. Our current work is identifying what types of laboratories all of these institutions have. We're not focused explicitly on academic curriculum. We're not looking into that. Yeah. So we're looking at once the classroom you've taken, you've given the instructions in the classroom, what types of facilities are you taking them for the experimentation purposes? So we're doing that type of an evaluation, not only within the universities, but all institutes that have any kind of laboratories. Currently, we're doing inventory and a research in that space to understand what you have and what you don't have. Because it goes back to the doctor-patient thing. Unless we really expedite and know what you're missing, we won't be able to properly assist you because we can come up with solutions that you don't need or solutions that you've already thought about. So we're looking into lab, and that's going to take some while because it's surprising. So, for instance, we didn't expect that no one in Armenia has really knowledge what shape our laboratories in Armenia. There is no data that exists. So we have to ourselves go and identify and find that data. And that's what we're doing. And it takes time. It's going to take time until we really understand what it is and how we can we're looking for scientific spots of it, and scientific experimentation in particular at this point. So once we establish that, then I think we'll switch over when it comes to really looking at academic aspects of it, including curriculum and other interests within the academia.
Thank you. One remark about Yerevan Gyumri when there is no car, actually, I'm sure this is because of snowing today.
There was no snow. There was no snow. It snows only in this last 10...
The whole Facebook page, then the message on news that it's going to be dangerous to road.
Oh, really?
No, this
Thanks for inviting me on this day.
So actually the connection with Yerevan is great, and we are very grateful to all Yerevan people that those seeing the risk 12 years ago, they came from Synopsys, from Virage Logic, Synergy, many great companies, the engineers came and starting to teach in Gymri. This was the beginning, so the connection is really great. And right now I want to address the goal of all this, inviting you and inviting other entrepreneurs, successful foundation members. So the goal is, first of all, yes, to know Gymri not only with its colorful side, but also with its problems and with its issues. One of the main issues is isolation, lack of communication, lack of experience, and we try to solve this in GTC every Friday, hosting different great people here to encourage. And my question, maybe my last question for today before we will have discussion, of course, how to build collaboration with FAST, because we want to see the decentralization of any great foundation from Yerevan to Gymri. To see decentralization of foundations and companies that don't want just to come and feel comfort in Gymri, but want to see the problems, accept the problems, be next to us to overcome these issues and move forward, so as to have really the Armenia we want, even out of the capital. So what is the strategy for FAST, this is the first question, to decentralize its activities out of Yerevan in other regions of Armenia, and how in GTC, in Gymri, I and everyone can support this strategy, this goal? Thank you.
It's a good question. I just want to say that we don't need to decentralize because we haven't centralized it. Because we're in a very good place. We're just starting. For instance, we're already working with some solutions in Dilijan, which is definitely not in Yerevan. And now with you, we'll start doing something in Gymri, and we're planning to go to Vanadzor as well. It is our objective for us to go all around real communities in Armenia to see how we can empower them. But again, just want to say that we don't need to decentralize. We're already thinking, not only in Armenia, we're also thinking of Armenian communities outside of Armenia. We're also looking at the neighbors in Tehran, we're looking in Iran, we're looking in Georgia, we're looking in Russia, naturally United States as well. Because I said from the get-go that we're looking for Armenia as nation, not within Armenia proper, not the boundaries of Armenia, but Armenia as nation. And we have a lot of qualities, a lot of places. What's important is to create those types of reciprocal relationship between communities, for them to create value, mutual value. So it's not that someone is contributing more than others. It's not that someone is doing a favor, but there is really a reciprocity. It's a very good word to learn. If you don't know what this word is, I would encourage you for you to take this and expand your vocabulary with this particular word called reciprocity, which means both parties benefit. We're looking for establishing those types of relationships between any parties that we want to bring together. There is a reciprocity. Networks only live and survive and last and sustainable only if there is a reciprocal relationship between those. If there is no reciprocity, it dies out. If I take more than I give you, it's going to last very short time. We want to say, if we're educating you to connect to another entity, we want to have some kind of a equal collaboration, an equal take from all parties. That's how we're looking at it.
Thank you. And my last question, and if no one else has question, we will just look through the startups in GTC. You are Armenian, apart from blood call, because you have been living out of Armenia. What is the challenge
that you are today here in Armenia? What is the main challenge and also the main problems you face towards positioning Armenia with its science and technology? And as you said, not within Armenia, but also involving diaspora and non-Armenians. What is the main challenge in Armenia for you in person?
Really, we're going there? Okay.
Sorry for the question.
It's actually an important one, and this is a very, very serious one, guys. Very serious one. I can't make, there is nothing else as important as what I'm about to say, and it has nothing to do with science, technology. It has something, absolutely nothing to do with any of this space. It's culture. The biggest challenge is culture. And it's not the culture, don't misunderstand me. It's not the culture of being Armenian or not being Armenian. It's the culture of reflection versus deflection. And if you don't know what that means, it means the following. You come to me and say, hey, Armen, you have a problem. And I say, no, you have a problem. I don't have a problem. Sounds familiar? Does that sound familiar? Yes? No? You're laughing, smiling. I get that it sounds familiar. If you deflect, you don't know that you have a problem. If you don't have a problem, or if you don't know that you have a problem, there is no way to solve a problem because you don't have a problem to begin with to solve that problem, right? So that culture is very persistent. It's innate. And it's not only true in Armenia. It's actually many Armenians abroad as well. There is that you don't know what you're talking about. I am perfect. And it's not, again, I don't want to say it's an issue with Armenia. It's an issue with Armenians in general. Doesn't matter whether you're in Glendale, California. Do you have a problem? No, you have a problem. Or if you're in Armenia. Մենք problem չունենք.
Մենք problem չունենք.
But in reality, guys, this is, I mean, really think, if nothing else, please take this home. Think about this for a minute. We say we're extremely creative people. We say we're the brightest people. We're this people, we're that people. We're so awesome, we're so incredible. We can't find our country on the freaking map. We can't find our country on the map. There is a number somewhere, you gotta go somewhere on the map, says number 35 Armenia, whatever it is, right? We have to stop and say, look, there must be something that we haven't been doing right. Every single individual, starting from this individual to every single individual that we know. We have done something incorrectly at some point, and we persistently on that up until today. In 1991, we had an accidental country. A big empire collapsed, Armenia was born. Accidental country. If we continue deflecting, another 25 years will pass, we'll still start blaming everyone else. It's the Turks, it's the Russians, it's the Americans, it's the Azeris, it's the Georgians, they're jealous. It's Trump, he's an idiot. It's Erdogan, he's religious. It's this, it's that, it's this and that. I don't see, I screwed up. It's me. It's me. I made the mistake. I am the responsible person. I am not as educated. I am not as smart. I am not as tall. I am not as beautiful. I am not this, I am not that. This is not to put you down. This is to have a realistic image of who you are, what you are as an individual, as a society, for us to be able to find the common ground, find that core element that needs to be addressed for us to be able to address. And then when we're sitting in this type of a room, our discussion is very different. Our level of creativity is very different. Our level of impact is very different. Who we are to us, to Armenians, who we are to the world in general is different. We're different people, we're different entities. We are model citizens of the planet Earth, happen to be Armenian, because we stopped deflecting, we began reflecting, and I hope that would be something that you can take home today.
Thank you. No, but it creates one more question. I promise the last one. When you introduce Armenia to the people, companies outside of Armenia who just hear about the country for the first time, and as you mentioned, not visible on the map, how you sell the country, how you introduce Armenia, and who are Armenians?
It's actually very simple. I say we're an old nation with a potential. The fact that we're here also over these millennia is also telling about us as people. We have survivors, and we have survived, and we're still here. Many, many entities, the time that Armenia claimed to be powerful, other powerful neighbors don't exist any longer. Some of them completely disappeared, they wiped out. So we're still here. There's something innately strong within us. So we say that we're an old nation with a potential. We do have a potential. You guys, you're here. We're here. We have the potential. No question, we have the potential. We just need to act on it. That's how I would introduce.
Thank you. And your message to all of us, and okay, how to move? What's the main path to move forward and to be a great part of the world developments?
Again, stop deflecting. Start reflecting. It will solve all the issues that you need. It will solve your personal issues, professional issues, cultural issues, national issues, everything of that nature will go away. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. Start with yourself. Try it. Say, you know what, one thing, one time, I'm going to go to a person and say, you know what, what's your name?
My name is Susanna.
Susanna, I was wrong. Hypothetical situation. Start with that. Just one. It will feel good. Trust me.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Orujyan, for being here in GTC and giving the great speech that is really will be felt later, I'm sure, not immediately. And I agree with all of this, because being in touch with foreigners, I'm getting the message very often. Let's accept how we live and what we have in reality. Let's accept, find right people next to us to share, to get experience, to move forward, because moving forward for all of us means moving our great Armenia, lovely Gyumri, Artsakh, and our country. That is going to be one of the most powerful countries in the world. I believe this, and no one can impact on this belief. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. Appreciate it. And thank you.